Welcome to Astrodology, the podcast that brings you knowledge, wisdom, and principles that can help you find the peace and comfort we all seek and deserve in our lives. Hi, this is Astrid. Welcome back to Astrodology. I want to talk about the word spirituality. I consider myself a spiritual person, and I want to break this topic of spirituality down into 4 podcasts. So this first topic of spirituality, and each time I will repeat what spirituality is. I found a great definition about it from a site called All About Spirituality. Spirituality is a broad concept with room for many perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, and it typically involves a search for meaning in life. Here's a thought from All About Spirituality. Spirituality extends beyond an expression of religion or practice of religion. There's a pursuit for a spiritual dimension that not only inspires, but creates harmony with the universe. That relationship between ourselves and something greater compels us to seek answers about the infinite. During times of intense emotional, mental, or physical stress, man searches for transcendent meaning, oftentimes through nature, music, the arts, or a set of philosophical beliefs. This often results in a broad set of principles that transcends all religions. Here's a beautiful quote. Why do we close our eyes when we pray, when we cry, when we kiss, when we dream? Because the most beautiful thing in our life are not seen, but felt by the heart. This quote is by an unknown source. The real meaning of spirituality, and this is an article from Mastin Kipp of The Daily Love. Spirituality is the measure of how willing we are to allow grace, some powerful, greater than ourselves, to enter our lives and guide us along our way. But that's just me. Get a room full of 1,000 people and ask each one of them what spirituality means to him or her, and the definition will start to get blurry. It isn't the same thing as asking someone to define a word like car or sun. Any consensus you might get will be vague at best. And with vagueness comes confusion. So many people today are throwing around words and phrases such as spirituality, intention, highest potential, higher self, purpose, attraction, vibration. The list goes on and on. We can form petty sentences like, my intention is to raise my vibration to the level of my highest self so I can reach the goal of my highest potential and finally live my purpose and attract an amazing life. It sounds good, doesn't it? But what does it mean? Did the person who said this know what he or she was talking about? To me, undefined spirituality lingo is poetry at best, manipulation and control at worst. And what it often leaves out, in my humble opinion, is room for grace, the uncontrollable, benevolent, loving partner of the divine that wants to enter the world through and as you. So why aren't all of us living in the middle of that kind of grace? For many of us in the so-called spiritual world, it's because there's no room. We're so stuffed up with ideas about what spirituality is, chanting Om, biking to work, eating raw food, It is not TV, junk food, plastic bottles that we haven't left room for. The good news is that even if most of us don't consciously leave room for grace, grace will find a way. Whether we like it and using whatever tools are necessary, even if that means shaking our foundation so strongly we lose all sense of control and don't know which way is up. Yep, it sometimes takes nothing less than a life-shattering crisis to break up the soil and let grace unfurl. What spirituality does do is help us better navigate our lives so that the cycle of crisis to grace isn't as bumpy. When we behave in ways that are truly spiritual, there are fewer struggles and there is less suffering. We can ride the waves of crisis with more surrender, and in that way we allow grace to carry us. Spirituality isn't about being gluten-free, wearing Lululemon, doing vinyasas, chanting mantras, going to church, tithing, doing self-help seminars, being vegan, being vegetarian, reading self-help books, or any other thing that you do. While all of these choices are awesome, in my estimation, they don't equate to being spiritual. You can wear all the right clothes and spend all of your days at the ashram and still act like a jerk. At its essence, spirituality is a measure of how loving you are, how unconditionally accepting you are towards yourself and others. It is a living practice. You don't need to go to Italy, India, or Bali to find your spirituality. Although those places may be lovely to visit, it's right here in front of you right now. It's in every person you meet and every breath you take. It's everywhere you go, though you can't see it. You certainly can't buy it, and you won't find it in a book. None of these things matter if you aren't being loving. The external markers are potential gateways to learning how to love, but they are not the loving itself, because love itself can only be found within. That's the promise, and that's the bitch. You think you need to go through all these exotic places to find it, but it's not out there, it's in here. But where in here, you might wonder? My mind, my heart, my lungs, my feet, my toes, my ankles, my eyebrows. Where is this spirituality thing? Where is the love inside of me? The love is in the choices we make, period. Being love is being a living thing. It's a moment by moment practice. If you're anything like me, you'll be refining it and trying to get it right for the rest of your life. And good for you, because people who are trying to be loving are my kind of people. I'd rather hang out with a loving member of an opposing political party or a loving carnivore atheist than I would a cold-hearted yogi, no matter how long he or she has been gluten-free vegan or how many times they've chanted at the altar of Shiva. I've learned that when we begin to understand what spirituality is, and we begin to shift our lives towards unconditional love, we start to see ourselves differently. We see that everyone has a gift to give to the world. All of us, both teachers and students, we are givers and receivers. We're unique and to be celebrated. When we go one step deeper, we start to see that we are the divine's gift to the world, all of us, including me. What a beautiful exploration by Mastin Kipp of the Daily Love about spirituality. Again, this is part 1. I'll be following up with 3 more segments on spirituality. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. I look forward to you tuning in the next episode of Astrodology. Namaste. Thank you for listening to Astrodology. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please hit the subscribe button and tell your friends about it by sharing this program on social media. You can also follow me on Instagram at Coda Life Goddess or at codalife.com. Coda is C-O-T-A, Coda Life Goddess or codalife.com. Thank you again for listening to Astrodology, and I'll see you next time.